Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be diving into your monthly horoscope for February. Now, before we start talking astrology, I have a few important things that I would like to mention. I'm a Western tropical astrologer. That is probably the number one thing that you might want to keep in mind when you are watching this. All the videos on my website are Western tropical astrology based. Secondly, I follow the whole sign house system. If you have a preference for a different house system, that is absolutely fine. Test whatever house system to see what resonates with you, what works best for you. I use whole sign because I have found it to be the most accurate in my experience and in my clients' experience. Last but not least, if you would like to reach out to get a personalized reading from me or to book a one-to-one consultation, you can do that through my website, which is written in the stars-astrology.com. You can go to the services section and see that there are different types of readings and consultations that you can go for, either in a video call live format or in an audio recorded format only. So let's see what is going on in February. In terms of lunations, we have a new moon happening in Aquarius on the 11th of February and a full moon happening in Virgo on the 27th of February. Throughout the first part of the month, actually throughout the first 20 days of the month, we have Mercury still in retrograde, going in retrograde through the sign of Aquarius. And until the end of the month, we're going to have the shadow period of Mercury retrograde. So we're still probably going to be feeling the after effects. On the 1st of February, we have Venus going into the sign of Aquarius. And on the 25th of February, Venus moves into the sign of Pisces. In terms of standout aspects throughout the month, we have also, let me not forget about the sun moving into Pisces on the 18th. So the sun is going to be in the sign of Aquarius until the 18th, and after the 18th, it moves into Pisces. There are a few standout days in terms of tense aspects. The one that I would like to flag to all of you out there is the 17th of February in particular. This is when we have an exact square from Saturn in Aquarius to Uranus in the sign of Taurus. And we're probably going to be feeling the effect of this square throughout the entire month because both of these planets are slow-moving planets, and any aspects that they make take some time to unfold in our life. Now, there is like a huge emphasis on Aquarian energy, especially in the first part of the month, especially in the first 3 weeks of the month. And this culminates around the 11th of February at the new moon in Aquarius, when we have 6 planets out of 10 possible. Virtually everything is in Aquarius. We have the sun and the moon, obviously, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn all in Aquarius at the time of the new moon. At the time of the full moon in Virgo on the 27th, things start shifting a little bit. We're going to have the sun in Pisces, obviously the moon in Virgo. Mercury is still in Aquarius, but we have Venus in the sign of Pisces, and Mars is still going to be in Taurus along with Uranus. So without further ado, let us start looking at how this month is likely to play out for all 12 zodiac signs. Before you start listening or before you jump straight to the timestamps, by the way, I always add timestamps in the video description, so you can click on that button down there under the video if you're watching this on mobile. I think there's like a drop down option, and you can read the description, so you're gonna find timestamps there. I would recommend listening to both your sun sign and your rising sign forecast because you're much more likely to relate to the rising sign first, as the rising sign is how you enter the world, how you approach the world, and how you are seen by the world from an external reality perspective. The sun is still important because the sun is our sense of identity, but rising sign first. You know me, I am your internet mom and feel compelled to mention this Every time, peeps. And I'm sure those of you who are followers and subscribers know this, but there might be some new folks, so who knows? Who knows? Now, let us start with the one and only Aries, my lovely Aries suns and Aries risings. What is happening for you in February 2021? Well, the month actually starts really nicely and really smoothly with Venus entering Aquarius on the 1st of February in your 11th house of long-term plans, goals, dreams, and friends until the 24th of February. So you could say that this is definitely a month that is hugely focused on interacting with groups of people, on making plans for the future, on feeling a lot more social and sociable, because Venus is the urge to interact, to relate, and to collaborate. In the first 2 days of February, the moon in Libra in your 7th house of partnership is aspecting very nicely your planets in Aquarius in the 11th house of friends. So once again, more collaboration. The month starts with an air, with a vibe of collaboration for you, my lovely Aries. You're feeling charming, you're feeling ready to mingle, and you're also feeling excited for the future, very likely. But let us not forget that for the first 20 days of Feb, from the 1st until the 20th, Mercury is still retrograde in the area of your chart connected to long-term plans, goals, and dreams for the future. In the first 20 days of February, you may also feel compelled to reconnect with old friends. That tends to happen during Mercury retrogrades. You may also feel compelled to go back and revise, revisit, reorganize some of your long-term plans, goals, and dreams. You might have thought that you were ready to kind of like move on from them, but alas, there seems to be a little bit more work for you to do in that arena, because Mercury is actually the planet that also governs your 6th house of day-to-day work. So it looks like you are putting work and you are going with the finer tooth comb through your plans for the future. One thing that I would like to flag in Mercury retrograde times, if you are signing anything, if you are agreeing to anything in writing, if you're sending emails, if you need important kind of like communications and documentations to reach, and documents to reach certain people, I would triple, quadruple check details related to shipping and transportation. I would check the fine print. I would read it 5 times. I would actually ask a friend to read it again, because you might miss details. So if you can stay away from signing things in the first 20 days of the month, that would be fabulous. Now, throughout the entire month, which is a little bit frustrating, but let's face it, everyone's going to have to face this frustration in a certain sphere of their life. Saturn, going through your house of long-term plans, goals, and dreams, is in a tense aspect to Uranus in your 2nd house, and the aspect is exact on the 17th of February. What does that mean? In order to make your plans a reality, because Saturn wants things to turn into something visible for the world to see and something tangible. It's like, I want to achieve this dream. Well, here you go. Saturn is a little bit irritated by the fact that all sorts of unexpected expenses seem to be creeping up. So I would be patient, and I would not get too annoyed with the fact that maybe you didn't actually estimate the costs or all of the financial implications for what you are planning to do long term. You might need to review budgets as well. Now, from the 3rd until the 11th of February, Mars in your 2nd house of income is squaring the Sun conjunct Mercury in your 11th house. So once again, this is another energy of you wanting to like spend money really fast to make things happen, but either you run out of money at some point, either you realize, actually, I haven't really thought this whole like budget thing through. So if you can exercise a little bit of caution when it comes to throwing your money out the window, then that would be my biggest recommendation, my dear Aries. Don't be so fast, don't be so quick in thinking, oh, I'll just like throw money at the problem and it's going to be solved, because you might find yourself out of funds very quickly, very, very quickly, Aries. Now, I do like a specific aspect related to Mars in your house of income in February. From the 14th until the 25th of Feb, Mars is going to be in a trine aspect to Pluto in your 10th house, and the aspect is going to be exact on the 25th of February. The trine aspect is a harmonious one. So if you are finding yourself in need of more funds, or if you're thinking, you know what, I need to increase my income this month, or I need to increase my sources of income this month, I need to like sell more, I need to be more productive, it looks like you're going to be getting the work that you need to be more productive. And also, if you need the support of a boss or of someone in a position of authority, let's say you're realizing, actually, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg to pay for this let's say like home renovation, let me just ask my boss for more shifts. They're likely to give you more shifts. So you're feeling energetic, use that. And also I would use the enthusiasm and go to people in positions of authority and ask them whether there's a possibility for them to help you to supplement your income. Now on the 11th of February, we have a new moon. Dun, 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 dun. With 6 planets in Aquarius, and the new moon is also in Aquarius. You're going to feel the effects of the new moon 3 days before, 3 days after, my dear Aries. It's happening in your house of long-term plans, in your house of friends, in your house of groups of people, and causes that you believe in. At the time of the new moon, we have a tense aspect between Mercury in this part of your chart in the 11th house, squaring Mars and Taurus in your 2nd house. So what's happening around the 11th of February, Aries? You are either reaching a new beginning, a point of entering into a stage of your life where you start making some of your dreams happen. The more annoying part is you've probably not considered all the financial implications, or you may realize that in order to complete one of your long-term plans and objectives, you're going to have to be really careful and really meticulous, Mercury, and pay a great deal of attention to detail in terms of where the budgets are headed. I would ask for help here. I would ask for help from friends. I would ask for help from coworkers. I would ask for help from consultants, because as much as you like to do it all by yourself, this seems to be a bit of a group effort, what you're working towards now. This can also be a time when you are receiving a new friend in your life, or when you are entering a community, a group of people where you feel very much like you belong to an extent, but they're also questioning some of your life values and priorities that you may have had up until this point. And it can be a very enlightening, although a little bit ego-shattering perspective, Aries. Now, on the 18th of February, the Sun enters Pisces in your 12th house, and on the 25th, Venus enters Pisces in your 12th house. What is going on? It's like, I'm done. I need to rest. I've been so active. I need a bit of a break. And this is also culminating. So in the second half of the month, after the 18th, 20th onwards, the need to rest is also culminating with the full moon happening in Virgo on your 12th house, 6th house axis, which is the axis of service, but it's also the axis of health. So it looks like around the 27th of February, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after, you are fulfilling a very important work-related chapter in your life. You're wrapping it up, and you deserve to take a step back, take a holiday, take a few days off, step away from your daily duties and responsibilities, even if it's just for a short period of time. You've earned it. What I really like about this full moon is the fact that both the moon and the sun are in a pleasant aspect to Uranus, planet of surprises. So a few things may happen. There may be an unexpected but surprisingly good ending to a very energy consuming work related project. And there can also be a very surprising ending to any sort of like physical suffering that you may have been going through. And I really like the 28th of February because there is a grand trine happening in earth signs on this day, with the moon in Virgo in your house of work and health, Mars in the second house of values and income, and Pluto in the 10th house. So this to me has written all over it financial compensation due to career achievements. Now, in my view, some of the best days of February are the 14th and the 25th, and some of the more challenging days are the 10th of February and the 17th in particular, when Saturn is squaring Uranus, Aries. Now, let us move on to my dear Taurians, Taurus suns and Taurus risings. Now, you are one of the fixed signs. You know what that means. I keep on saying this phrase until I find a better one. Structural changes in your life continue, Taurians. So your life is not going to look the same after 2021 in many, many aspects. But let me break it down for you. Now, from the 1st of February until pretty much, I would say, the last week, there is going to be a huge amount of emphasis on your house of career and on where you're headed career-wise, where you're going professionally. The first 2 days of the month are really nicely aspected in terms of work-related topics. We've got the moon in Libra in your 6th house of co-workers and day-to-day work, aspecting nicely planets in Aquarius in your 10th house of career. So you seem to be getting along really well with co-workers. The team is on your side. You might be negotiating some deals very successfully. And indeed, negotiation seems to be a keyword this month, especially between the 1st of February and the 24th, whilst Venus, planet of negotiation, is going through your 6th house of day-to-day work. Now, in the first 20 days of the month, Mercury is still retrograde until the 20th in your house of career. So you seem to be dealing with some old challenges at work, or old challenges related to bosses, or old challenges related to where you're headed work-wise. You seem to be dealing with them once again. Now, I know patience is a virtue. I was about to say virtue is a patience, but you get me. You get me, Taurus. Patience is a virtue, and you have a lot of it. So you're gonna really be asked to tap into it, especially in the first 3 weeks of February, with Mercury retrograde in your house of career. This is a fantastic time, by the way, first 20 days, to reach out to old clients. If you want to score new deals, if you want to sell more, it's a great time to strengthen relationships with people of influence and of authority in your professional sector. And I wouldn't be surprised if one of these actually came to you with a very unexpected but too good to say no to opportunity, especially around the 11th of February at the new moon in Aquarius, 3 days before, 3 days after. There is a high level of unpredictability related to this new moon, and all the unpredictability seems to be coming together in your career sector and in your career direction. In a good way, but also in a very disruptive way. And fixed signs don't usually embrace disruption that easily. Now, throughout the entire month, we have Saturn in your house of career, squaring Uranus in your first house, and the aspect is exact on the 17th of February. Let me tell you, it sounds like a cliche, but your patience will be tested. Your resilience will also be tested, and your ability to stick to processes and to conform is also going to be tested throughout the entire month by bosses and by people in positions of authority. And by the end of the month, you might actually realize, I need to break free from this restrictive career environment. I want to do my own thing. Uranus in the first house says for you, Taurians, it's like freedom. I don't care about what the boss wants. I want to be the boss. I I don't agree with the boss. And there's going to be a lot of, I don't agree with the boss. Why are you asking me to do this? Now, there are also some really nice aspects that I want to point out. In addition to the month-long frustration of symbolically trying to maintain and assert your individuality, but maybe hitting several walls along the way from figures of authority, Taurians. So between the 3rd and the 11th of February, we have Mars in your first house, squaring the Sun conjunct Mercury in your 10th house, which adds to the tension. So you're feeling a little bit more belligerent than usual. But from the 7th until the 14th of February, Mars in your first house of action is going to be sextiling Neptune in your 11th house. So you seem to have friends who want to support you in your actions and who want to support you in breaking free from the confines of your current career path or from the position where you find yourself career-wise. And from the 14th until the 25th of February, Mars in your house of self and of action is going to be in a nice aspect to Pluto in your 9th house. And the aspect is exact on the 25th. So this is a time when you might be feeling in the mood to plan long-term travel or long distance or long-term, both of them. My apologies. And there might also be some unexpected opportunities for you to indeed travel between this time frame. Now, I have mentioned the new moon happening on the 11th of February, 3 days before, 3 days after. There's very likely going to be the impetus of a new beginning in your career sector, and it can be something that you're consciously aware of, but it could also be something that you're subconsciously projecting, and the universe seems to be making the decision for you and saying, you want to break free? We're just going to create a whole bunch of disruptions in your workplace so that you can't really find your peace there anymore. Because the universe works in mysterious ways. It's time for a big career change, Taurus. And you know it. We all know it. You can try to hang on to the past, but the future is creeping up on you. In a good way. Now, on the 18th of February, we have the Sun moving into Pisces in your 11th house of friends, and from the 25th, we also have Venus entering this sector, and this is culminating with a full moon in Virgo on the 27th of February, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after, where we have triggered the axis of love and friendship. So you could say that from the 18th onwards, you become a lot more sociable. You become a lot more focused on spending time with friends, on finding a sense of belonging in your tribe and within your group of people. And there can be a bit of a aha, finally moment around the 27th of February when the full moon in Virgo is essentially making you have fun with friends or offering the opportunity to have fun with friends because both the sun and the moon involved at the full moon are in a pleasant aspect to Uranus in your first house. It can also feel like a time when friends come to the rescue and they start bringing joy back into your life. Because you've been feeling very conflicted, my dear Taurus, throughout the whole of January and also throughout February. And there is a fantastic grand trine happening on the 28th of February in Earth signs with the moon in Virgo in your 5th house, Mars in your 1st house, and Pluto in the 9th house. This is a beautiful time for travel. It's a beautiful time to have fun. It's also a beautiful time to enter into kind of friendly competitions with friends and enjoy yourselves. You're absolutely gonna like this this time. Now, a few of my favorite dates for February are the 14th and the 25th, and the days that I don't particularly like in February are the 10th and the 17th of February, dear Taurians. My dear Geminis, Gemini suns and Gemini risings. What a month you have ahead of you. So actually, you're one of the signs who are probably going to quite enjoy February as opposed to fixed signs who are going to have a challenging time, and cardinal signs who may be a little bit about it. Your immutable energy is really gonna enjoy the excitement. And there is a lot going on this month, especially in the first 3 weeks of the month, in your ninth house. Literally everything seems to be revolving around ninth house matters, which have to do with higher education, long distance travel, foreign affairs, interacting with foreigners, learning from a different culture, embedding yourself into a different culture. The ninth house is also associated with society and the spreading of ideas throughout society, the way you would do through publishing, for instance, the way you would do through launching a piece of work that is addressed to a wider audience. So it is a fantastic time to publish things. It is a fantastic month for self-promotion, especially in the first 3 months of the month. So let's dig into it. Now, in the first couple of days of February, we have the new moon in Libra, nicely aspecting the planets in your ninth house in Aquarius. So what's going on? These first couple of days are actually very romantic in nature and very creative in nature as well. You may be feeling very inspired. You may be feeling in the mood to play, in the mood to express yourself. And if you are in a relationship, you might be feeling very connected with your romantic partner. But let's not forget that in the first 20 days of the month until the 20th of February, Mercury is still retrograde in your ninth house. So what does that mean? Essentially, you may be still dealing with past challenges, past issues related to, or past plans that you might have postponed or that you might have put on hold, related to travel, related to publishing, related to self-promotion, also related to anything legal, so courts of law, visas, scholarships, documents needed in order to advance your studies. It's almost as if you have to go back over the paperwork, back over the entire documentation, maybe send some additional paperwork. There seems to be more bureaucracy. You might have thought, oh, I dealt with that. And you hear back from their office and you're like, I gotta send you that birth certificate again? Oh boy. So that seems to be a major theme in the first 20 days of February. And now, throughout the entire month, there is a bit of a tense aspect between Saturn in the ninth house associated with this, with long distance travel, higher mind, and higher education. Saturn is squaring Uranus in your 12th house, and the aspect is exact on the 17th of February, which, by the way, is one of the more challenging days of the month. So what's happening here is you may have all sorts of like surprises and unexpected elements thrown in the mix when it comes to furthering your plans related to travel, related to higher education, related to courts of law. Patience is going to be of the essence. So not getting overly frustrated, not feeling like the world is trying to sabotage you. I would consider it a bit of a blessing in disguise. It's giving you time to set up a very strong foundation for what you're trying to promote, or for what you're trying to study, or for what you're trying to achieve in terms of travels. Now, from the 14th until the 25th of February, I really like the fact that Mars in Taurus in your 12th house of spirituality, of the shadow, of past lives, and also of isolation, is going to be in a beautiful aspect to Pluto in your 8th house of intimate partnerships, as well as psychological transformation. So between the 14th and the 25th, you seem to be going through some very strong eureka moments related to a personal crisis that you have been going through in the past 3 years, and which escalated very, very likely in 2020. And now you're starting to let go, very likely, of the negative emotions that you had attached to this crisis. And you're starting to see how strong a regenerating effect it had upon you for the better. On the 11th of February, we've got the new moon of the year in Aquarius with 6 planets in Aquarius. Literally 6 out of 10. I mean, what is this in poker? What is it called? You guys tell me. Your entire energy is focused on educational matters, on travel related matters, and also on your belief system in general. You seem to be having a big enlightenment moment in terms of what you believe in this lifetime, in terms of your big picture, in terms of your personal life philosophy. It can be a new moon that plays out on an internal level, but it can also play out very tangibly, physically in the external world, with you embarking upon a new course of study in higher education in particular, making plans to travel, making plans to launch something that requires exposure, that requires a great deal of exposure. Mercury is still retrograde at the time, so if you're launching anything, I would check the social media posts 5 times before pushing them out. And still, there might be a little bit of like technical difficulties. But you're still making a big splash, which I think is the most important thing. Now, from the 18th of February onwards until pretty much the end of the month, the focus is shifting on your house of career. So we've got the sun entering your house of career in Pisces on the 10th. Then we've got Venus entering your house of career on the 25th until the 20th of March. So you are everyone's sweetheart, especially the sweetheart of like bosses and figures of authority from the 25th until the 20th of March. And this emphasis on your house of career is culminating with the full moon in Virgo on the 27th of February, triggering your house of career and your house of home and private life. This is most likely a culmination in your family sector, in your residence sector, that seems to be shining its rays upon your professional path, status, and position in the world as well. Some of you folks might move out of a home at this time. Some of you might buy a new home. Some of you might hear some very pleasant, unexpected news that are changing both your status and place in the world and your career kind of like journey and path. Because of what's happening in the family and in the home. There is this pleasant, unexpected element of surprise with Uranus in a fantastic aspect to both the sun and the moon. And Uranus is placed in your 12th house, so you're literally not seeing this coming. It can play out in various different forms, but I would recommend having flexibility around your schedule and having flexibility around any sort of plans that you have made around the 27th of February, because you're likely to be kind of like called to stay at home, but for all the good reasons. So you're enjoying the surprise. Now, the month ends with a bang on the 28th of February with a grand trine in Earth signs. On the 28th, we have the moon in Virgo in your house of home, Mars in the 12th house of the shadow, of past lives, of the dissolution of the ego, of all things hidden, and Pluto in the 8th house of shared resources and intimate partnerships. So this seems to be like a culmination and a strengthening of the relationship that you have with a family member or with all family members and an intimate partner. Now, some of my favorite days for February are the 14th and the 25th, especially on the 25th when Mars is trining Pluto. Very, very steamy energy. Great day for sex for you guys. And the 10th of February and the 17th are a little bit challenging. So remember the 10th and the 17th. And that is Gemini. Now let us move on to my fellow Cancerians. For those of you who are new here, I am a Cancer rising. So, welcome. Welcome to my forecast as well. So, what's cooking, Cancerians? This entire month, especially in the first part of the month, the first 20 days of the month, which I agree, it's like the bulk of February, because February is only 28 days long. So in the first 20 days of February, there is a massive emphasis on all matters related to your 8th house. What does that mean? Your partner's resources, shared resources in general, any sort of resources that you might need from an external entity such as a bank or like an insurance house, taxes, inheritance, gifts, investments, because in investments you're essentially playing with other people's resources, so they still fall under the house of resources. It's also the house of psychological transformation, which does involve a little bit of crisis, just a tad of kind of like psychological crisis that ends up making you stronger in the long run, but in the moment it might feel really, really, really unpleasant. So what is going on? The first couple of days of February, I actually like them for you because we have the moon in Libra in your 4th house of home and family, nicely aspecting the planets in your 8th house in Aquarius. So it may feel, if you have been experiencing any sort of like conflict with family members, or if you've had a bit of a tough time at home, things are settling down, things are being like smoothed out. Let's not forget that throughout the first 20 days of February, we still have Mercury retrograde in your 8th house of shared resources, and the psyche, and death and rebirth and intimacy, you know, all the light stuff, i.e. not light at all. So you may actually have to deal with some shadow work when it comes to some postponed shadow work when it comes to the Mercury retrograde period. Why do I say that? Because Mercury is the ruling planet of your 12th house of spirituality and also of your 3rd house of communication. So if you have been postponing having some very important talks with partners or with institutions about finances, this is it. You are being offered the opportunity to go back and talk to them. And you're probably going to be offered the opportunity whether you like it or not. So you might have to repeat yourself a little bit here, Cancerians. Now, throughout the entire month, another quite tense aspect is Saturn in your 8th house, squaring Uranus in the 11th house of long-term plans, goals, and dreams. And the aspect is exact on the 17th of February, which is, by the way, one of the most challenging days of February. So what's happening? There seems to be frustration related to a certain release of funds that is holding you back from putting into practice your long-term plans for the future. There may also be a feeling of crisis and possibly even betrayal coming from one of your friends who is acting quite the rebel, and you can't recognize them, and they're like, yeah, this is the new me. So you might try to like probe into their psyche and understand how their mind functions and understand why they're behaving so weirdly. Between the 7th and the 14th of February, this is actually an aspect that I like. We have Mars in your house of friends, sextiling Neptune in your 9th house in Pisces. So if you are thinking that some friends are acting weirdly this month, which may be the case, it's a good idea to talk to them. It's a good idea to act compassionate and to show compassion and understanding, and not allowing the ego to get in the way is something that we should all do most of the times. But throughout this time frame, you more than anyone are going to be asked to be more tolerant and understanding, even when it comes to people who are acting like out of line, who are acting out, who are trying to make a point that you think is probably like way too forceful a way to make a point. Now, on the 11th of February, we have the new moon happening in Aquarius in your 8th house with 6 planets in Aquarius. This is literally all planets in Aquarius. There's only a handful left in other signs. So What's happening now? You may hear news related to an external source of investment that you were asking for, that you needed. It can be a scholarship. It can be insurance. It can be a certain kind of like tax rebate. You might also hear news of the amount of tax that you've got to pay, Aquarius. My apologies, Cancerians, at the new moon in Aquarius, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after. And there can be quite unexpected surprises because we've also got Uranus in the mix. The best way out of this is to pay your dues. And although you might not enjoy it, you might need to rely a little bit upon your partner's finances as well. This can also be a new chapter that is affecting you indirectly because it's bringing in a new beginning in your partner's finances if you are with someone, if you are committed to someone. Now, from the 18th of February onwards until pretty much the end of the month, you're going to be whistling through the rest of February because the heavy stuff is happening at the beginning of February. So from the 18th, the sun is entering Pisces in your 9th house of long distance travel, higher mind, and the higher education sector. From the 25th, Venus is entering this part of your chart until the 20th of March, which, by the way, from the 25th until the 20th of March, 25th of Feb till 20th of March, with Venus in this part of your chart, it's actually not a bad idea. Please don't kill me. Please don't throw hate in the comments. But it's actually not a bad idea to start thinking about traveling once again, to start thinking about exploration once again, to start thinking about what sort of like guides and mentors you might need in your life once again, and to start planning for traveling and learning once again. With Venus in your house of long distance travels might actually be a lot more pleasant until the 20th of March than usual. Now, on the 27th, we have a full moon in Virgo in your 3rd house. The 3rd house is the house of the logical mind. It's the house of transportation. It's the house of siblings and networking. And it is also triggering your 9th house of the higher mind and of belief systems. This is a fantastic time because you seem to be completing a course of study around this time, my dear Cancerians. It may have been a very formal, official course of study, but it could have also been a more unofficial course of study of you expanding your horizons, your spirituality, your view of the world. A lot of you folks might get some unexpected news from siblings, very pleasant unexpected news because we have Uranus involved in the full moon, in the lunation period. If you have been looking for a car or for a new means of transportation, you're probably going to find it around the 27th. I would strongly recommend refraining from buying anything transportation related when Mercury is retrograde, though. So that's actually until the 20th of February. So if you can wait until at least the 27th, then that would be amazing. You are going to be very happy. It's also a time when you might feel ready to socialize once again, to get out of the house. The 3rd house is ultimately the house of networking. So you may end up finally and unexpectedly, you got Uranus to thank for it, unexpectedly catch up with some of the people who you haven't seen in a very, very, very long time, and who you would consider colleagues. And the month ends with a bang, with a grand trine and earth sign, in the earth signs of Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn on the 28th of February. This is a fantastic day for reaching communicational breakthroughs with partners. Be them romantic partners, be them business partners. It's also a fantastic day to sign deals that are related to long-term plans. Some of my favorite days in February are the 14th and the 25th of February, and some of the more challenging days, Cancerians, are the 10th of February when Mercury is squaring Mars, and the 17th of February when Saturn is squaring Uranus exactly. This is a particularly frustrating day. My dear Leo suns and Leo risings, this month, you guys, you guys are going to have to learn the beautiful art of compromise. The king of the jungle will most likely have to give in to the people, and the people are probably going to be embodied by either your life partner or a business partner, or if you work in any sort of like consultancy based environment, there's going to be a lot of back and forth, a lot of negotiation, and at times you might end up getting very frustrated because no matter how hard you push, no matter how hard you try to exert your willpower, they just won't give in. They just don't want to do it. So for the sake of moving forward with your lives, I'm going to say this is a month for you to really take a more humble approach and not allow a hurt ego to get in the way of true progress and of moving forward in your relationships, be them business oriented or be them romantic relationships. So what is happening? The first 20 days of February, so pretty much the first 3 weeks out of 4, because February is actually super short, are going to be focused on the area of partnerships and committed relationships. They can be business partnerships, as I've mentioned, but they can also be life partners that we are talking about here. So Mercury is going retrograde still in your 7th house of partnerships until the 20th of February. The retrograde started on the 30th of January and it's going strong until the 20th. So this can be a time where you might be feeling like your partner isn't really getting your message, or when you might be feeling like you have to repeat yourself, or when you might be feeling like you have to go over things that you agreed already with a partner or with a significant other in your life, and all of a sudden and very unexpectedly it's like, nope, the terms of the agreement have changed, so let's renegotiate. Now, this is probably one of the most frustrating aspects. Another very frustrating aspect, let me just lay out the tense aspects of the month, because I also have good news. I have good news, so wait for it. Please be patient. I want you folks to be prepared. I don't want you coming at me and saying, Rux, why did you wear your rosy colored glasses? I haven't encountered this much opposition in a long time. So yeah, indeed, you're very likely to encounter opposition throughout the entire month from people in positions of power. So Uranus in your 10th house of career. The 10th house is associated with bosses, with people who have influence, is in a tense aspect throughout the entire month with Saturn in your 7th house of partnerships and committed relationships. So this may result in bosses or people with authority coming up with unexpected obstacles, throwing them into the mix of your career plans. You might also experience the reverse, as in a certain partner that you were relying on and that may have seemed to be on your side in terms of where you're headed professionally. They're backing out and they're saying, know what, you haven't really thought this through, you haven't really planned this, and as much as I would love to agree with you, they're probably right. You probably haven't planned your next big career move as much as you needed to. So consider this a blessing rather than a source of frustration. There is probably going to be a need to go back a little bit to the drawing board and reconsider both your plans for your career and also reconsider how these are affecting your partnerships in this in the month of February. The aspect is exact on the 17th of February, which is one of the most tense days of next month. Now, there are also some very supportive aspects, which I have mentioned I'm going to flag to you. So it's not everything going against you, although you might get really angry at times and feel like, why on earth do I have to explain myself to you? Why do I have to get buy-in from you? And when I say you, I'm referring to your partners. Probably because you love them, probably because you need them, probably because your forces combined are a lot stronger than you doing everything by yourself. Now, the very nice aspects are the following. From the 7th of February until the 14th, Mars in your house of career is going to be sextiling Neptune in your 8th house. What's happening here? Action that you are taking to advance professionally, to further your career objectives, that is based on compassion, understanding, and an attunement to other people's psyches and motivations, Neptune in the 8th house. So stepping in from a place of compassionate and tolerant action, and kind of like preempting other people's needs that may be in the way for the time being for your advancement career-wise, is probably a really good thing to do. So if you're taking things personally, it's not personal. So try to understand where they're coming from, and also try to understand if there's anything that you can do to offer emotional support so that they can also get out of your way and everyone wins. Everyone's fulfilling their objectives. Now, there's also a possibility that between this time frame, you may be receiving a bonus from work, because the 8th house is also associated with bonuses and with lump sums of money. From the 14th until the 25th, Mars in your house of career is going to be in a nice aspect to Pluto in your 6th house of day-to-day work. So the crisis at work seems to be reaching a point of resolution, and you're seeing a way forward, which is very likely involving getting rid of some of the existing structures in your current work life. So you might have to say goodbye to a few team members, or you might have to move to do the work that you are doing. You might have to give up on a certain fixture that you thought was essential to your work, and you're actually realizing, you know what, I can do my work a lot better without this. So release, and make your load easier work-wise between the 14th and the 25th. Now, on the 11th of February, my dear Leos, you have a new moon in Aquarius in your 7th house of marriage and long-term partnership. With 6 planets in Aquarius, it doesn't get more Aquarian than this. Mercury at the time is going to be in a tense aspect to Mars in Taurus in your 10th house of public reputation and status and career. So some Leos are going to get engaged at this time. Some Leos are going to, let's say, start pooling resources together with a partner. Whatever you're doing, partnership-wise, you seem to be reaching a new level of commitment. You might actually be signing a collaboration contract with someone to help you take off some of the load on your shoulders from your business, for instance. But you seem to be reluctantly accepting that you need help, and you're officializing the collaboration aspect of things. Now, from the 18th of February onwards until pretty much the end of the month, my dear Leos, the focus is shifting towards your 8th house, which is the house of intimacy, shared resources, intimate partnerships, and also psychological transformation. So you have Venus moving in this part of your chart on the 25th. Before that, you had the sun shining its rays on this part of your chart. And there is a culmination around the area of shared finances in your life around the 27th of February. So this is when we have a full moon in Virgo, triggering your money axis. So 2nd house, which is your income, versus 8th house, which is shared resources. Now, it looks like at the time, so around the 27th, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after, you are reaching a mutually empowering financial agreement with a partner in your life. And there's some very pleasant aspects to Uranus in your house of career. So this very high level of reluctancy and skepticism that you may have had towards welcoming someone into your life and pooling resources with them is actually paying off beautifully. If you have been waiting on a lump sum of money to make its way to you, and there have been delays throughout Mercury retrograde, you are likely to hear news, very pleasant news, around the 27th of February, because Mercury was retrograde for quite some time, and Mercury rules your money axis. Well, it actually rules especially the money that you make, that you earn. So you may have also been having a hard time until pretty much the 27th, at least until the 20th. You may have had a hard time reaching the folks who owed you money for the work that you have been doing. The month ends with a bang, with a pleasant bang, a very relaxing bang, with a grand trine in earth signs, with the moon and Virgo in your second house of income and values, Mars in the 10th house of career, and Pluto in the 6th house of health. So after all of this financial kind of like back and forth that you may have been experiencing and frustration with partnerships, it looks like you're reaching a point where you're realizing it's not that bad to welcome help. It's actually not that bad to merge powers. I mean, yes, I might not be the absolute leader and king and CEO force, but if my life is getting easier, why not? So my question to you, Leos, is why not? Ask for help. You can't do it all by yourself, and it's going to become very obvious in February. Best days in February, the ones that I like the most at least, are the 14th and the 25th of February. The ones that I don't like are the 10th of February and the 17th. My dear Virgos, Virgo suns, and Virgo risings, this month for you, especially the first 3 weeks of the month, are hugely emphasizing your 6th house of day-to-day work. Newsflash. Virgo, you're going to have a lot of work to do this month, even more than you normally have. Because essentially until the sun moves out of your 6th house and until Mercury goes out of retrograde in your 6th house, it may feel like everything is revolving around work-related matters, colleagues, your team, anyone who's working for you, and let me just put it out there. You seem to be in need to really redo your day-to-day routine because you've reached a point of busyness that doesn't seem to be boding very well with your health and with your well-being. So there needs to be a reshuffling of tasks and priorities this month. So let me start breaking things down. Mercury, which is actually your governing planet, the planet that rules your sense of identity, is retrograde in your 6th house of day-to-day work until the 20th of February. So what's happening? You may have to go over previous work-related projects. You may have to review some of them, revisit some of them. You may feel a little bit frustrated because maybe this is actually like taking you away from home and family-related matters. You may also have to deal with any health-related matters that you might have inherited from someone in your family, because Mercury also rules your 4th house, which is connected to the past, and it's also connected to at least one of the parents. It's nothing major, and it's nothing that a better routine can't handle, but your attention is probably going to be called towards this part of your life, my dear Virgos. And the challenges that you're dealing with are very likely challenges that you know of and that you have dealt with in the past. Now, another tense aspect that is active throughout the entire month, but that is exact on the 17th of February, is Saturn in your 6th house of day-to-day work and health in a tense aspect to Uranus in your 9th house. So this is when you might really be reaching a point, especially around the 17th, but the entire month seems to be testing your patience related to coworkers, related to how you work with the teams of people and the various processes that you employ on a day-to-day basis at work. And there seems to be a major clash in belief systems. So you have your strong attachment to your way of doing things, your processes, your rules. You seem to be having people from the outside with like a different belief system altogether questioning your methods, and it's probably messing with your head, dear Virgos. Biggest recommendation is don't let them mess with your head. And secondly, choose your battles, because if you don't choose your battles, then you're going to get really stressed. You might actually like negatively impact your physical health, and you don't want to get there. Please don't get there. So choose your battles, and yes, it might actually result in you sometimes having to swallow a little bit of your pride related to how you do things. Now, there are some very pleasant aspects as well in February. From the 7th until the 14th, Mars in the 9th house of long-distance travel, higher mind, higher education, and belief systems is in a beautiful aspect to Neptune in your 7th house. So when things at work seem like they are becoming too much to handle, it's a fantastic idea to escape from the mundane aspects of life and start dreaming and planning and organizing and having a think about where you can travel this year with a partner. It's also a fantastic time, if you can, between the 7th and the 25th. If you can learn a new way of looking at how people think, if you can dive into, well, I always say, if you're encountering a repeating pattern in your day-to-day work, I would look at it and say, okay, let me take a step back and ask myself, is this trying to teach me something? Is this trying to question and challenge my worldview? Is there anything that I can learn from this? Is there anything that I could try to do and to look at it from a new perspective? Because Mars in the 9th house is a new perspective. It's like, oh, let me actively take kind of like action to see things from a different perspective. A more compassionate perspective, a more understanding perspective, and that might actually ease your frustration with coworkers and stakeholders at work this month. Now, I also like between the 14th and the 25th, the fact that Mars in Taurus in the 9th house is trining Pluto in your 5th house, and the aspect is exact on the 25th of February, around the 25th in particular, is a really good time to connect with a romantic partner on a mental and physical level, both. Now, on the 11th of February, we have a new moon in Aquarius in your 6th house of day-to-day work with 6 planets in Aquarius. So the energy does not get stronger than this. What's happening at this time? No matter whether you like it or not, no matter whether you agree with it or not, because I can see that from a principles perspective, there might be things that you don't agree with it. You are entering into a new work-related chapter altogether. For a lot of you, this is going to mean a new job. For many of you, it may mean a new team that you are working with. There's a reform, because Aquarian energy is very strong in revolutionizing things. There is a reform of the processes that you are sticking to at work, and there is a complete disruption and a revolutionizing of your daily routines, which might give you a little bit of mental anxiety. It's getting easier from the last week of February onwards. It's also a time of increased objectivity related to your state of health. What's good for you, what's not good for you, what habits you might need to get rid of, what processes at work are actually not supporting your mental health. And it's okay to admit that you might have not realized these things until you reached a point of crisis, until you've hit a wall, be it physical, be it mental health wall. Now, from the 18th of February onwards, and pretty much until the end of the month, there is a shift in focus on your 7th house of long-term partnerships and committed relationships. So on the 18th, the sun starts illuminating your house of partnerships. On the 25th, Venus also is bringing its joyful, pleasant rays into your house of partnerships and marriage. And on the 27th, we have a culmination, a full moon in Virgo, triggering your 1st house, 7th house axis. This is a very, very beautiful time for you to acknowledge that you've changed from an identity perspective as a result of a partnership in your life. You might be very pleasantly surprised and realize and acknowledge that at least in the past 6 months, a partner in your life, someone who may have a much more bohemian, artistic, and compassionate, and less practical life philosophy has actually contributed to changing your life philosophy in a good way, in a surprisingly good way, in a way that brings peace of mind. At the time of the new moon, of the full moon, my apologies, we have a pleasant aspect to both the moon in the first house, so emotions, and the sun in your seventh house of partnerships, to Uranus in your ninth house. So emotionally, things start to click for you, and you're probably going to be very thankful to a partner at the time. Now, because we have Uranus placed in the ninth house, which is also associated with legal environments triggering the full moon, some of you might actually get engaged around this time or sign some like very official legal paperwork that bears a great deal of weight in the future of you as a team, as a couple, as partners. It can also be you officializing a business partnership at this time. And the month ends with a bang, with a grand trine in earth signs, a beautiful grand trine in earth signs on the 28th, with the moon in Virgo in your first house, Mars in the ninth house, and Pluto in the fifth house of love, enjoyment, and creative activities. This is a fabulous, fabulous time to promote any sort of, to promote to the world, to shout about it, any sort of creative work that you do. It's also a time when you might be starting to feel a lot more confident in the future, in the world, and experience almost like an epiphany type of moment that puts into perspective any emotional suffering that you might have been going through, especially in January and February, my dear Virgos. Now, the best days of the month, in my view, are very likely to be the 14th and the 25th of February, along with the 28th. I would also add the 28th. And the more challenging days are likely to be the 10th and the 17th of February, with special attention to the 17th of February, when there seems to be some sort of like pain in the health sphere. It's almost like one of those dull pains that you get frustrated because it's not going away. It's kind of like a thorn in your side. It's not super inflamed either. It's like, oh no, why do I have to carry this weight on my shoulders? But there's also a lot of good stuff going on in February, dear Virgos. Now, if you are a Libra sun or a Libra rising, what can you expect from the month of February, dear Libras? Well, I think you're going to be amongst the few signs who are actually going to enjoy February. There's going to be a whole lot of emphasis on your house of fun and creativity, which generally makes for a really good time. But let me start breaking things down for you. So throughout the first couple of days of February, on the 1st and the 2nd, we have a beautiful, beautiful aspect from the moon transiting your house of identity, aspecting very nicely planets in your 5th house of romance. So the first couple of days can actually make for quite the romantic time. You also have Venus, planet of love, and the planet that governs your sign, Libra, transiting through Aquarius in your 5th house until the 24th of February. Venus is the planet of love. The 5th house is the house of what we love and what we enjoy doing. You are really getting the long end of the stick in February, dear Libras. And let me just say this. I know I get comments quite a lot from people saying, oh, it's a pandemic. Oh, we can't meet new folks. Oh, like, how can we start off new relationships? And I'm like, people, get creative. You don't have to jump to, I don't know, like whatever stage with a potential romantic partner for it to be a romantic time. You can actually nurture the beginning of a romantic relationship or a potentially romantic relationship through communication and connection. And for you Libra risings in particular, as your 5th house is ruled by Aquarius, first and foremost, I gotta say, for you, it's likely to work better romantically in the long run with someone if you become friends with them first. So even if you can't meet potential romantic partners in person, if you are single, there is a whole lot of power and a whole lot to be said about connecting with them, even if it's through, I don't know, like over the phone, over social media, even if it's through words at first. Try that. Now, until the 20th of February, so in the first 20 days of February, we have Mercury going retrograde in your 5th house of love. So what this means is, generally, very, very likely, people from your past may reach out to you with potential romantic proposals. Now, I know I'm going to get people saying, oh, I don't care about love. Tell me about something else. Tell me some other good stuff. Well, the other good stuff is the following. In the first 3 weeks of February, dear Libras, it looks like you're going to be asked to work once again on an older creative project, something that you may have started a while back. Maybe you left it off unfinished, or maybe you have, let's say, an existing client coming down to you and saying, I want a continuation, or I want an update on this creative project. In terms of creativity in general, the first 3 weeks of February are fantastic when it comes to collaborating with old colleagues or partners on creative projects in general. So this is very, actually very nicely emphasized. Now, the only thing that I would recommend, though, because it is Mercury retrograde after all, things might look a little bit, to start with, they might look a little bit better than they actually are. So it's quite easy to get super excited. And then after Mercury goes out of retrograde, after the 20th, to see that you may have overlooked some details in regards to what it is that you got your teeth into, what it is that you said yes to. Now, throughout the entire month, and this is actually something that everyone's going to feel throughout the whole of 2021, with a few let's call them critical days. Throughout the entire month, Saturn in your 5th house of creativity is squaring Uranus in your 8th house of shared resources and partnerships, especially intimate partnerships, external investments, and the psyche. So what's happening here, and by the way, the aspect is exact, so you're likely to feel it the strongest on the 17th of February. What is happening here is you may be ready to kind of like take a potential romantic partnership to the next level, or you might want to kind of like let off some steam, and for some reason an external obstacle such as distance, for instance, is getting in the way. So you might be getting a little bit frustrated about that. Now, it also looks like you may need external investment into an existing creative project or into a project that you plan to work on in the next few months. And maybe, just maybe, you're not getting the amount of money that you need to put into it. And maybe like the client or someone who you've asked for investment is trying to get things done on the cheap. And that is also very likely to rub you the wrong way. Now, we do have some very other beautiful aspects throughout the month of February for you, my lovely Libras. Between the 14th and the 25th of February, Mars in Taurus in your 8th house is going to be trining Pluto in your 4th house of home, family, and real estate. And the aspect is exact, so at its strongest, on the 25th of February. So what's happening here is essentially you seem to be smoothing things up, patching things up with a family member over some sort of very kind of like strong emotional crisis. Now, this could also manifest as an internal event, because in astrology, whatever happens inside of our psyches and our heads is as important as whatever happens in the external world. You may also be bearing the hatchet of war, I think that's what it's called, bearing the hatchet, in regards to an older conflict with a family member, or in regards to an old wound coming from your childhood. And this is a very healing aspect, and you seem to be taking action in order to heal something. And it's making room for you to move forward in life in a much lighter kind of stage. Now, that might involve for some folks saying goodbye to a family member or moving away from a family member, but it does seem to be for the better, for the sake of everyone involved in the potential kind of like a conflict or uncomfortable emotional situation. Now, on the 11th of February, there is a new moon, dun, 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 in your 5th house, with 6 planets in Aquarius. It doesn't get more Aquarian than this. It doesn't get weirder than this, but in a good way. Don't send negative comments, Libras, because I'm actually super excited about this new moon for you. So 3 days before, 3 days after the 11th of February, you're probably gonna give birth to one of your biggest creative projects ever. Something that you may actually keep yourself busy with for at least the next 2.5 years, with Saturn transiting through Aquarius until March 2023. So you are laying the foundations of one of your biggest creative projects ever. It's gonna be a baby for some. It could be like an actual like product for some, like a movie, or like releasing something like let's say like a book, or putting your creative self-expression into something that has an external form, a material form, seems to be the massive theme here. Obviously, some of you may be entering into a whole new chapter when it comes to their romantic life. It seems to be a new chapter, especially on a mental level. So from a philosophical and love and philosophy, right? Some of the best things in life. From a mentality and belief system perspective, you seem to be entering into a whole new stage of your life, my dear Libras. Now, from the 18th of February onwards, and with a culmination around the 27th, we have a lot of emphasis on your house of day-to-day work and health. So you could say that the fun to be had is probably going to be had in the first part of the month. There's also a massive theme of kind of like getting back together with old flames, old friends, and enjoying yourself in the first part of the month. Now, from the 18th, you got to get down to business and to work. So on the 18th, we've got the Sun entering Pisces in your 6th house of day-to-day work, Venus entering Pisces on the 25th in your 6th house of day-to-day work. And on the 27th, there is a full moon in Virgo, triggering your axis of service. So the 12th house, 6th house. The 12th house is what we give to others as self-sacrifice. The 6th house is where we make ourselves of service to others in a tangible, practical way. And we also get paid for it. There is a very high chance that around this time, you're probably going to hear some really positive news coming from work. You are either getting approval for like a big budget, or you reach a point of healing and of peace and of harmony when it came to relationships with coworkers, or when it came to a bit of a rockier kind of like a period of your life team-wise. Some of you may be adding members to their team at work. So let's say you were recruiting and you finally find someone around the 27th, and quite unexpectedly, so I would say. And a lot of you might actually be getting a bonus around this time from work. And because it's something that you did not expect, it seems to be all the more pleasant. Now, the best days in February, in my perspective, are the 14th and the 25th, and the more challenging days are the 10th of February, Libras, and the 17th. Now, if you are a Scorpio sun or a Scorpio rising, what is going on in February? Okay, so the first 3 weeks of the month, everything seems to be revolving around family and home and residence and real estate related matters. Also, one of your parents might need your help in the first part of the month, especially until the 20th. of February, when Mercury gets out of retrograde in this part of your chart. So between the first of the month and the 20th of February, but if we take into account the shadow side of Mercury retrograde, you're probably going to feel the effects of it until most likely the end of the month. We have a very high chance of you having to deal with some financial issues in the family sector. Why do I say that? Essentially, there seems to be a matter of contention, very likely, or an old issue coming back to the surface in regards to shared resources and in regards to finances. Maybe, let's say you had agreed with your family to spend a lump sum of money in a certain direction, and actually in the first 3 weeks of February, your partner or a parent comes up to you and says, you know what, I actually need that money now, so you've got to change your plans for the future. So there can be a little bit of frustration, a little bit of like a miscommunication and misunderstandings and frustrating messages coming from someone in the family that you share resources with. There's also a possibility that you might need to spend unexpectedly a significant amount of money on home-related matters. It's either a partner that needs your help or a parent that needs your help here. Now, if you are waiting, let's say, on approval from a mortgage, or if you have been waiting on some money to kind of like put towards the home, it's probably going to make its way to you a little bit later than you expected, probably towards the end of the month after Mercury gets out of a retrograde. Saying that, there are also some beautiful aspects in February. So the Mercury retrograde is probably the most kind of like challenging. The beautiful aspects are the following. The first couple of days of February, the first and the second, the moon in Libra in your 12th house of the shadow, of rest, of the subconscious, is nicely aspecting planets in your 4th house of home and family. So you may be feeling like you are, like you're resting. You may be feeling quite lucky to have the home life and the family life that you have. It's a moment of respite, I will say. So please take it. You're gonna need it. Now, on the 1st of February until the 24th, you also have Venus entering Aquarius in your 4th house of home and family. Once again, there's a lot of love coming from the family. There's actually a strengthening of relationships, possibly also due to the fact that you seem to be dealing with some very kind of like serious long-term challenges, and it's almost as if both parties or all parties involved, if there is multiple parties involved, like let's say a parent and like siblings and possibly a partner as well, all parties involved until the 24th seem to be open to dialogue and compromise. And you actually seem to be open to dialogue and compromise, even though that's quite unusual of you, my dear Scorpios. I mean, as it is when it comes to all fixed signs. So I count myself amongst you, like Aquarians, Taurians, Leos, Scorpios. We just think we know what's best for everyone involved, and we don't want to hear it any other way. Well, it ain't gonna work like that, especially when it comes to family and home-related matters, Scorpio, this month. Now, the other challenging part that I wanted to draw your attention to was the fact that Saturn in the 4th house of home and family is squaring Uranus throughout the entire month in your 7th house of partnership, and the aspect is exact on the 17th. So this is the energy of negotiation with a family member. This is the energy also of drawing your boundaries and let's say recommunicating your boundaries, making sure that everyone involved respects each other's boundaries, and yes, maybe there will be compromise needed in order to meet each other halfway. You may feel a little bit frustrated because I keep on saying the word frustrated, you can tell. you may be a little bit frustrated because you might feel like you have to compromise a bit more than others on your boundaries, but it seems to be for a good cause. Now, what I really, really like between the 14th and the 25th is the fact that Mars in Taurus, and Mars is actually your traditional ruler, in your 7th house of partnership, is going to be trining Pluto in your 3rd house of communication. And the aspect is exact on the 25th. So after the first 3 weeks of like negotiation, possibly like miscommunications, like trying to find the middle ground with family and with your family and possibly a partner, you seem to be striking a deal and you seem to be communicating a lot better around the 25th, in particular on the 25th, most likely. Now, on the 11th of February, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after, we have a new moon in Aquarius in your 4th house of home, family, and residence, and the past as well. What is happening here? Well, it looks like you are probably moving into a new home, possibly welcoming a new family member into your life. There's something big and structural that is changing about your home life. Some folks might be investing in real estate. They might be acquiring a new property. Some folks might be starting a longer term, at least 6 months long, project of renovating the home. You know it's going to require a lot of effort. You know it's going to require a lot of mental energy. You know it's going to require you to give in at times to someone else's opinion other than yours, most likely a partner. But it seems to be one of the major structural changes of the year that you are called to embrace, my dear Scorpio. Now, from the 18th onwards of February, so on the 18th, the Sun enters Pisces in your 5th house of love and children. On the 25th, Venus enters this part of your chart, and on the 27th, we have a culmination in a full moon in Virgo, triggering your 5th house, 11th house axis. So after the 18th until pretty much the end of the month, the focus is shifting towards romance, towards children, towards creativity, towards the lives of children, towards your hobbies, and any sort of outlets that you have in your life for creative self-expression. Now, you may be feeling, especially after the 25th of February, you may be feeling very loved, you may be feeling very appreciated, you may be also feeling very inspired until pretty much next month with Venus in this part of your chart. On the 27th of February, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after, the full moon in Virgo is triggering your house of long-term plans and your house of creativity and individual self-expression. And they are both in a pleasant aspect to Uranus in your 7th house of partnerships. So, a few things that could happen around this time. Some of you might unexpectedly commit to a partner, or you may hear some very pleasant but unexpected news from a partner in your life. Now, if it's not a partner romantically, it can be a business partner. It could be an unexpected proposal to collaborate on something creatively. If you have children, then it's definitely good news on the side of children making its way to you. It's also a time when you are very likely going to feel called to share the good news in your life with your friends, with the groups of people that you are a part of. You are feeling very appreciated and loved at this time, and it feels good, and you're being made to feel as if you really belong and as if you're very privileged. So wait for the second part of the month, my dear Scorpios. Now, the best days, in my view, in February are going to be the 14th of February with Mars sextiling Neptune. Oh, this is a very, very romantic and passionate and sexy time. As if you need additional reasons to be sexy. Scorpio, you already are the definition of that. The 25th of February I also like because Mars is trining Pluto exactly on this day. The more challenging days are the 10th of February when Mercury is squaring Mars. So this is a day for probably big misunderstandings. And the 17th of February when Saturn is squaring Uranus exactly, dear Scorpios. My dear Sagittarians, welcome to your February horoscope, Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings. So, what is going on in your life in February? A lot of learning, a lot of communicating, a lot of talking and writing, a lot of networking, and I'm getting ahead of myself, so let me take a step back and start talking about timings. So, in the first 2 days of February, Sagittarius, we have a beautiful, beautiful aspect from the moon in Libra in your 11th house of plans, goals, as well as friends, aspecting nicely the planets in Aquarius in your 3rd house. The first couple of days are actually very well aspected for you to sign deals, especially something that was initiated before... let's say before Mercury went retrograde on the 30th of January. So it's almost as if an older deal or an older sale or purchase makes its way back into your radar, into your attention. And if that's the case, if it's something that you started a while back and it's coming back to your attention, it's a good idea to sign, to make the sale, to make the purchase, and to sign the deal. It is also a very beautiful time of reconnecting with old friends, Sagittarians. Now, in the first 20 days of February until the 20th of February, Mercury is a retrograde in your 3rd house. What does that mean? There is a very, very high chance that you will get back in touch with old colleagues, that you will have to go over old deals, old emails, old communications, because there might be details that you need to pick up. There might be information that you are required to use once again on a day-to-day basis. There's also very likely to be delays and slowness and a little bit of irritation and frustration as to all matters that have to do with travel, be it short distance, be it long distance. It could be that you have to fix something about your car. It could be an older issue that you knew of, you had knowledge of already, but you kept on postponing it and you said, oh yeah, I'll do this later, I'll do it later, I'll do it later, and now the time has come. It doesn't get any later than the 20th of February because essentially otherwise it looks like your ability to move around might be affected, might be afflicted. Now in the first couple of weeks of February, you may also have to deal with some sort of communicational matter that also involves a sibling. If you do have siblings, be very patient with them and don't get annoyed because they need you on their side. They do seem to be going through a bit of a tough time and they need all the support and the mental energy that they can get from you. Sagittarians, my apologies. Now, what I really like about February, well, there's quite a few things that I like. There's an aspect that I really, really like, and this is Mars in Taurus trining Pluto in Capricorn in your 2nd house between the 14th of February and the 25th of February. What is going on? And by the way, the aspect is exact on the 25th of February, so that's when you might be feeling the energy the strongest. It looks like a major work project is starting to pay off. You have been hustling really hard since the beginning of January, since the 6th of January, when Mars entered into your house of income. And expenses may have gone up, but also your money intake has also gone up throughout this period. And it looks like you are raking in significantly more money between the 14th and the 25th. Now, if you've had any sort of health-related issue, in the past 3 months, if there was anything that has been inflamed in the body, it looks like you are healing. You are going through a period of healing. between the 14th and the 25th. If it's not healing straight away, then you are literally getting to the core of the problem, because it might have been a little bit of a freak type of issue health-wise. Maybe you didn't know exactly where it came from. Maybe you were like suffering from like a fever and whatnot, and you couldn't actually put your finger on it. It wasn't very clear this is causing it. So up until the 25th and from the middle of the month, you seem to be figuring out, okay, this is it. This is what I was dealing with. Now on the 11th of February, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after, we have a new moon in Aquarius in your third house of communication, of siblings, of transportation, of learning, of the logical mind. And we have 6 planets. Folks, it does not get more Aquarian than this. We have 6 planets in Aquarius at the time. Virtually everyone is joining your Aquarian party. So what's going on? You seem to be embarking upon a longer term chapter that may actually last until March 2023, when Saturn is getting out of this part of your chart. A longer term chapter of developing your logical, practical, tangible, applicable knowledge and skills. You may embark upon a course of study. You may start a practical learning process, such as possibly an apprenticeship, let's say. You may join some sort of community of like-minded individuals who are also likely to become your teachers to an extent, and you can teach each other. There seems to be a mutual exchange of information and knowledge, because you could be stepping into the position of the teacher as well, but it looks like all parties involved have a lot to share with each other. So there's reciprocity here. Now, from the 18th of February onwards, and pretty much until the end of the month, with a culmination around the 27th of February at the full moon in Virgo, we have a great deal of emphasis and of energy shifting towards your house of home, family, parents, roots, and the past. So, what is going on? From the 25th of February until the 20th of March, you may feel a lot more loved within the family. You may feel a lot more appreciated, and you may also embark upon activities that beautify the home, that make the home a much more pleasing environment to spend time in. And you are having the support of the Venusian energy. Venus is in Pisces in this part of your chart until the 20th of March. Anything that has to do with improving the aesthetics of your home environment is very nicely aspected. Also, anything that promotes peace, because let's not forget, Venus is the planet of peace. Any activities that promote peace and collaboration and harmony in the home place are a great idea as well. Now, on the 27th of February, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after, the full moon in Virgo is happening in your 10th house of career and status and public reputation, and it is also triggering your house of home, family, and personal life. Now, what is happening here? It looks like you are receiving some really good news related to your career that are allowing you to either spend more time with the family or that are allowing you to upgrade something within the home environment, or help the family. It can be quite in a tangible, material, practical way, because you have scored a major win career-wise. So you seem to be scoring a major win career-wise at around the 27th of February, and possibly even quite unexpectedly so. And because of that, you're feeling very generous, and you're feeling also ready to share your resources and your win and your victory with family members, possibly by also making some sort of investment towards the family, or by offering them like a gift as a token of your gratitude for their support towards you. And the month ends with a bang, with a grand trine in earth signs on the 28th, with the moon in Virgo in your house of career, Mars in the 6th house of day-to-day work, and Pluto in the 2nd house of income. This is beautiful. So essentially the big career win that you are scoring at the end of the month is having a regenerating effect upon your financial life. And also It is giving you a massive boost in your self-esteem, dear Sagittarians. Now, the most important days of February, well, great days and more challenging days in my opinion, because they're all important. All experiences are important, if you ask me. Some of the best days are the 11th of February, the 14th, and the 25th of February. Some of the more challenging days are the 10th of February and the 17th. The 17th is likely to be a bit of a frustrating one, when you may feel like there is some sort of hidden enemy, let's say, that really doesn't want to cooperate with you on a work-related project. Now that is Sagittarius. Let's move on to my lovely Capricorns, Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings. What can you expect from the month of February? Okay, so there's going to be a whole lot of emphasis this month on talents, skills, money, and whether you monetize your talents enough, or whether you are compensated enough, whether you are getting what you deserve. That is a big question, my dear Capricorns. So the month starts with a beautiful aspect in the first 2 days of the month between the moon in Libra in your house of career, two planets in Aquarius in your second house of income and values. So if you need approval on anything career related from someone in a position of power, like a boss, a manager, or if you are waiting on news that may have been delayed for quite some time related to a career move or a big project with a lot of exposure to the public, you're probably going to hear some very positive news and very positive feedback in the first couple of days of February, Capricorn. Now, the first 20 days of February are still a Mercury retrograde time. Well, actually, the bulk of the Mercury retrograde is happening in February. So, first 3 weeks of February, Mercury is going retrograde in your second house of income and money and values. Let me just lay this out there for you. If you are expecting payment from anyone, really, it's probably going to get delayed. So I would exercise some patience, which is something that you're very good at. I would also make sure, if you are waiting for anyone to make a payment towards you, that you have given them the correct details. I would double check things as them having the right account number or sort code. The email with the invoice actually getting out of your outbox and reaching their inbox. I would reach out to them if you are experiencing delays. There is likely something that was lost in translation. So I would reach out to them to double check whether they have received everything that they need from you in order to make the payment. Now, throughout the entire month, Saturn is going to be in your second house of income and values in a tense aspect to Uranus in your fifth house of love, romance, and creativity. And the aspect is exact, so it's going to be very tense on the 17th of February. What is happening here? It looks like worries, fear, challenges related to a possible payment or related to available financial resources are getting a bit in the way of you having a really good and fun time with a romantic partner, or they seem to be getting in the way a little bit when it comes to your ability to simply relax and enjoy yourself and have a good time. It's an aspect of frustration. It's also an aspect that says, if you can't have fun, you might as well do some more work. I know you're literally the very last person that needs to hear this, but hey, it works for you, so why not? Now, what I really like about February is an aspect between Mars and Taurus in your fifth house of enjoyment and love, and also fun activities, hobbies, for instance, aspecting harmoniously Pluto in your first house between the 14th and the 25th. Now, Mars is a planet of action. Pluto is the planet of regeneration, death, and rebirth, and it's also associated with power and obsession. So between the 14th and the 25th, what I really like about this Mars-Pluto aspect is that it is a fantastic aspect for all things intimate. It is a fantastic aspect to make room for sexual kind of like encounters in your life. It is a fantastic aspect to allow yourself to be carried away by the senses, to allow your passion to carry you away, to enjoy the pleasures of the body. And let me put it out there, if that's not your thing and if you don't want to do that, I'm like, okay, whatever, Capricorn. You can channel this very creative energy that you're benefiting into some sort of creative outlet and work, and the end result is likely to be very powerful, and it's likely to feel very cathartic because we have Pluto involved. And when we channel Pluto, it feels like we are getting a weight off of our chest if we have the audacity, the courage to look Pluto in the eye, to look our darkness in the eye and say, I need to get this out there. Let me channel it beautifully, creatively or passionately. Now, on the 11th of February, we have a new moon happening in Aquarius in your second house of money, income, and values. There are 6 planets in Aquarius. This is one hell of an Aquarian party, my dear Capricorns. A lot of you are going to be welcoming a new source of income in their life at the time. The majority of you are entering officially and are feeling it in their bones. You are entering a period of growth and expansion in terms of recognizing, acknowledging, and monetizing your talents, and really asking yourself, am I paid enough? Am I being compensated properly? Am I being valued enough? This can translate into searching for a new job. This can translate into adding a new source of income to your roster. It can also translate into a significant boost in your sense of self-worth and self-esteem. And as a result of that, you are going to be keen to embark on a much wider journey than you have been on in the past 3 years that may have felt very, very restrictive. Now, from the 18th of February onwards, and with a culmination around the full moon in Virgo on the 27th of February, the focus is shifting to your third house tremendously. So from the 18th of February onwards, it may feel like you are much more sociable than usual. Like there's a lot of comings and goings, communications, emails, telephones that you've got to make, a lot of interaction with others, a lot of having to exchange information, ask for information. On the 27th of February, though, 3 days before, 3 days after, the full moon is triggering both your 9th house and your 3rd house. This is the axis of learning. So this can be a time where a lot of Capricorn, especially Capricorn risings, are getting, let's say, results for exams, or are completing a mind expansion journey that may have started roughly 6 months before. It's also a time when you may hear news related to travel, or you may plan to travel around this time, dear Capricorns. It can bring with it, the full moon, an unexpected short trip with a romantic partner, because Uranus, which is involved at the time of the full moon, is in a beautiful aspect to both the sun and the moon. And Uranus is in your house of love. Now, it could also result in some sort of like short trip that turns out to be much more fun than you expected it to be. And it gives you an opportunity to unwind. So if anything comes up around the 27th of February in terms of getting away from where you're at, I would absolutely take the journey. Some of the most standout days in February are the following. The 11th of February and the 14th and the 25th are probably the best days, the most pleasant days of the month. And the more challenging days are the 10th of February and the 17th. The 17th seems to be a particularly frustrating time. My Aquarius brothers and sisters, for those of you who are here for the very first time, I am an Aquarius sun, and I keep on bragging on about it in all of my videos. So, what does February look like for us siblings? Well, pretty much for the first part of the month, actually the first 20 days of the month, we are going to have Mercury going retrograde in our own sign, in the first house of identity. For those of you who are Aquarius risings, for those of you who are Aquarius suns, then at some point Mercury might be hitting on your sun throughout its retrograde period and triggering a certain rethinking process when it comes to who you are, what you want, what you take pride in, what are your values, what is your purpose, how do you shine in the world. Now, in the first 3 weeks of the month, there is a very high chance that we might be thinking more about ourselves, our goals, our plans, our personal brand, so to speak, how we are seen by the world, how we present ourselves to the world, who we want to be in the world, what we want to embody in the world. And as a result of that, we may be a little bit less inclined to want to communicate or interact with others, because there might be a little bit of confusion as to whether what we're communicating is exactly who we are or exactly how we feel. And there is a very high chance, I have to tell you, Aquarians, that you might want to take back some of the things that you said throughout the Mercury retrograde after Mercury goes out of retrograde, so after the 20th of February, because you no longer think that. When Mercury is retrograde, it embodies a lot more the principle of the trickster. And it can make us feel a little bit confused, or it can also make us feel a bit more inclined to be the devil's advocate, which is something that you might regret after Mercury goes out of retrograde and you start to see things clearly. So, if possible, dear Aquarians, in order to avoid any potential misunderstandings, in the first part of the month, I would, if possible, stay away from agreeing to something very definitive or giving your word on something. Or if you do have to give your word on something, if you do have to sign up for something, I would make sure to check what is the return and refunds policy if you decide to draw out. So let's say you in the first part of the month, you decide to take on a new hobby and you sign up for, I don't know, online classes, and you're very excited about studying something new, about self-development, about self-growth, which is probably going to be on your mind quite a lot in the first part of the month. But after Mercury goes out of retrograde, you realize, what was I thinking? I don't have the time for this. So if you do need to sign up for something, if you do need to agree to something, make sure that not that much damage is going to be done if you have to pull out of the deal, essentially. That's something that I would recommend if possible. Now, I really like the first 2 days of February because the moon in Libra in your 9th house of the higher mind and of your belief systems is aspecting nicely the planets in Aquarius. So you're thinking big right now. You want to expand. You probably want to grow. You're also thinking about your place in the world, about where you fit in, about where you can explore further, how you can expand yourself. And you're feeling very optimistic, I have to say. And you should absolutely feel optimistic, but at the same time, be very careful not to think too big and not take into consideration all the other duties that you have in your life. Because once Mercury gets out of retrograde, and once you start feeling a lot more strongly the energy of Saturn, you may be reminded with a jolt that you can't just go traveling the world now when you want to, even though you feel like it, because you have to attend to your duties and responsibilities first, because that's what Saturn wants from you. And indeed, those duties and responsibilities throughout the entire month seem to be pointed out by Saturn in your first house of identity, squaring Uranus in your fourth house of home and family. So someone in your family needs your help, or a matter needs to be attended to in your home sector. And even though you're dreaming very far away and your mind is very far away from the mundane reality, there seem to be some very practical matters that you need to take care of, and especially around the 17th of February, my dear Aquarians. Now, I really like an aspect between Mars in Taurus in your fourth house, trining Pluto in your 12th house between the 14th and the 25th of February, and the aspect is exact on the 25th of February. So it looks like if there was a particular issue that you had to solve in the home, maybe a parent needed your help. Maybe something burst, like the electrics. Maybe something broke and you had to fix it, and it was the very last thing that you needed. I don't know, like the TV or your computer. And you had to tend to it straight away. It looks like you are able to fix it, and your efforts, Mars, because Mars is also putting effort and energy into something, are being rewarded, and you are seeing the results of them between the 14th and the 25th, and especially around the 25th of February. Now, on the 11th of February, we have a new moon happening in Aquarius in your first house of identity with 6 planets. Literally everyone is gathering in your house of identity. I would also take a look at the 3 days before, 3 days after, the 11th, to see the effects and the influence of the new moon. What's happening? You are stepping into a new identity. There is no other way to think of it or to say it. You are beginning a major new chapter in your life that is likely to last for at least 14 years of self-development, of self-growth, of discovering who you truly are, of finding ways to express your authentic self, of defining your new hero journey. And that has a great deal to do with all of the closures that you've had to go through in the past 3 years of your life, when Saturn and Jupiter were transiting your 12th house of the dissolution of the ego. So the ego has been dissolved in the last 3 years, from December 2017 until December 2020, and now it's time to start building a new sense of individuality and a new ego, a new identity. From the 18th of February onwards, we have a focus shifting onto your second house, the second house of values, talents, and skills. So obviously, you've probably made a decision that you're going to start a new life. You're embarking upon a new journey around the 11th of February. You're building a new personal brand. And from the 18th of February, your attention is shifting towards what you can do for others. What are your talents? How are they monetized? What is going on in your financial sphere? How can you make more money? How can you value yourself better? There is a culmination in this part of your chart around the 27th of February with a full moon happening in Virgo, triggering your financial axis. The second house, 8th house axis, which is your money, other people's money, or like shared resources. Second, 8th house is also second, my values. 8th house is other people's values. It looks like you are striking a bargain with a member of your family as to what to make of a lump sum of money that has made its way to you, or there is a possibility, if you are with someone, if you are in a marriage, in a partnership, that your partner might actually reap the rewards of an investment or inheritance or insurance, and you can also benefit from those resources. And it seems to be coming very subtly, very unexpectedly. Very likely you're going to put it towards the home. Now, if you are waiting for approval on a mortgage or any sort of like loan or lump sum of money that involves real estate or your living kind of like quarters, you're probably going to get very good unexpected news about around the 27th of February, because Uranus wants to take you by storm, take you by surprise and say, here you go. What are you going to do with this money? Where are you going to put it? You thought this was going to take a long time. Nope. Here it is. I have this all sorted for you. And the 28th of February is a fabulous day because there is a grand trine in earth signs on the day, with the moon in Virgo in your 8th house of shared resources, Mars in the 4th house of home and family, and Pluto in the 12th house. This is when you're feeling very supported by family members, very supported also financially very likely by a partner or by an external entity. And you're also seeing why you have had to let go of some of the structures of your past life in order to reach this point of culmination. In the past 3 years, you've let go of these. So some of my favorite days in February are the 11th of February, which is also my birthday, the 14th and the 25th of February, and the more challenging days of February, dear Aquarius, are the 10th of February when Mercury is squaring Mars. This has verbal kind of like conflict written all over it, by the way. And the 17th of February, Saturn is squaring Uranus. One keyword for this: frustration and impatience. And guess what? You gotta wait, no matter how impatient you get. And that's Aquarius for February. Now, if you are a Pisces sun or a Pisces rising, what does this month have in store for you? Well, I gotta tell you, a lot of rest. So let me explain. And a lot of time spent with yourself, by yourself, looking inwards. Mercury is going retrograde for the first 20 days of the month. The first Mercury retrograde of the year started on the 30th of January and it continues until the 20th of February in your 12th house. Mercury is the messenger. It is the planet that governs the logical mind. It governs thought processes. And Mercury for you also rules your 7th house of partnership, and it also rules your 4th house of home and family. So it looks like in the first 20 days, you are probably thinking of your relationship with, and probably doing this in private, by the way, because there's a great deal of emphasis on the 12th house. You probably want to step away from everyone else, step away from social interactions, step away from being too socially involved, and reflect. And you seem to be reflecting on a matter that is related to either your partner or a parent, a matter that has to do with an ending and a closure. It could actually be a death. So not that a death is happening, but you are thinking of death. You are thinking of an ending. You are thinking of closure. There might even be a feeling of frustration at the fact that no matter how hard you think about this issue or about this challenge, there doesn't seem to be an immediate logical answer as to how to deal with it, my dear Pisces. Fret not. Your answers shall make their way to you, but a little bit later. Now, I like the first 2 days of February because the moon in Libra in your 8th house of the psyche is very nicely aspecting the planets in your 12th house in Aquarius. So the messages that you are getting through meditation, through self-reflection, through your dreams even, because the 12th house is also the house of dreams, in the first 2 days of February seem to be very soothing and seem to be calming your nerves in regards to something family related. Now, throughout the entire month, though, we do have Saturn in your 12th house in a tense aspect to Uranus in your 3rd house. So there is tension here throughout the entire month, and the aspect is exact on the 17th. There is tension here between your desire to bury, or your craving, more than desire, your craving to bury a plan, or bury a plan related to family matters, or bury an objective related to family matters or to home matters, to leave it in the past and to move on mentally and to focus on something else. And at the same time, this thought is like really nagging you. It's like really at the back of your mind. And I would take that as a sign that emotionally there's some sort of emotional attachment to this external matter that needs to be addressed. And it is a good idea to go to the root of the problem through meditation. As I've mentioned, there's various techniques. Through therapy, it's a fabulous time. February is a fantastic time for therapy. To really dig into the subconscious and see where this feeling of anxiety really is coming from, feeling of frustration, feeling of grief, of loss, even if there's nothing in particular in terms of like a person that you have lost. Now, what I do like about February is the fact that between the 14th and the 25th, we have Mars in Taurus in your third house of communication, siblings, and transportation and networking, in a beautiful aspect to Pluto, planet of power, in your 11th house of friends and long-term plans. You seem to be forming some powerful alliances throughout this time frame, my dear Pisces. You're either finding yourself in a new group of people that have a lot of influence, that have a lot of clout, friends in high places, for instance, and you seem to be connecting very, very beautifully with them on a mental level, and they're also inspiring you to pursue one of your bigger objectives for the future. They're showing you, they might be even teaching you, okay, this is how you do it. They might be giving you tangible, practical advice. This is also a very good time if you work in sales, if you sell anything of any nature. You seem to be very persuasive, and may I suggest, especially since Mercury is retrograde and then we enter into the shadow period after the 20th of February, may I suggest reaching out to old clients or old connections, because that's where the deals are likely to come from. Now, on the 11th of February, we have a new moon happening in Aquarius in your 12th house of spirituality, of past lives, of dreams, of self-reflection, of the shadow, also of hidden enemies. What is happening here? It looks like you are essentially, officially, probably feeling like you're entering a cycle. That's most likely going to last for the next 2.5 years until March 2023, when Saturn is getting out of this sector of your chart. You are entering a cycle of spiritual development. You are assessing the structures of your life, looking back at them and saying, okay, I've achieved this, I've ticked this box, now I need to move away from it and let go of it, even if my ego is suffering a little bit. But in order to enter into my next chapter of growth and self-development, it feels like a necessary step so that my weight is lighter, so that I don't carry so much weight on my shoulders. It is also a beautiful, beautiful time around the 11th of February, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after, to really have a think about what it is that you want, what is the vision that you want to manifest for the future, and how you want to connect with divinity to help you manifest this vision. And whether divinity or your higher self, however you want to call it, has any messages for you, my dear Pisces, as to who can help you, what is the best course of action forward. It's a time of clarification, but it's a time of clarification by connecting to other dimensions, to your subconscious, to your higher self, to entities outside of the mundane and the logical mind. Write down your dreams, write down what comes to you, write down what messages or downloads, however you call them, you get through meditation, because they're likely to prove very, very useful in the next 2.5 years. Now, from the 18th of February onwards, and with a culminating moment around the 27th of February at the full moon in Virgo, the light of day, so to speak, is shifting to your first house of identity. So in the first part of the month, until roughly the 18th, the 20th, you may have felt the need to be more by yourself. From the 18th onwards, although the work on yourself and on your spirituality is continuing, you probably feel a lot more ready to face the world and to show your face again and to start a new chapter symbolically. We are entering Pisces season, by the way, on the 18th of February. So the sun is entering Pisces on the 18th. Now, on the 27th of February, give or take 3 days before, 3 days after, there is a full moon happening in Virgo in your 7th house. Okay, this is great. This is big. So a lot of you might be getting engaged around this time, or you might be receiving some fantastic news from a partner because Uranus is involved in the 3rd house, which is the house of communication. You may also be signing a contract with a business partner, which is very lucrative at this time. You may also, by the way, find a very, very good consultant for any needs that you may have, especially related to learning, to communications, and anything that involves writing or transportation. So let's say you were looking for a therapist. You seem to be finding a good therapist and probably like clicking with them around the 27th of February. Or let's say you needed, I don't know, like a solicitor, and you've been like shopping around and it's been really hard to find someone that could offer you the type of services that you wanted them to offer. And around the 27th, the right person makes their way to you, very much out of the blue. The best days of the month, my dear February, in my perspective, are the 11th of February, the 14th, and the 25th. And the more challenging days are the 10th of February and the 17th. The 17th is a day of frustration, especially in terms of communications for you, my dear Pisces. So, folks, thank you so much for joining me for your February horoscopes. Don't forget, if you are interested in getting personalized natal chart readings for me, or yearly forecasts, or you want to get a customized type of consultation, you can book these through my website, which is written in the stars-astrology.com. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? It's been a pleasure, as always, sending you lots of love, and I'll see you next time.